Hello and welcome along to another episode of PL Seasons to Remember on this Friday evening. We are here today to talk about an episode which is a very interesting one, is our Premier League all-time 11 with a bit of a twist. So for that twist, I'm going to send you over to Bob. Evening, Bob, if you want to discuss.
Evening. Right, so I came up with some interesting rules for this one. And we're going to try and get the other guys on to do their 11s as well. So it'll be interesting. And if you're watching at home or wherever, you can send us your 11s. So the rules are, you can pick 11 players from the Premier League era, but they can't be any from the team that you support. So the Premier League era is 1992 to now. You can pick a manager, but again, that can't be a manager that's managed your team. So let's say, for example, I wanted to pick Benitez. I can't pick him because he's managed Chelsea as well. So that's a good example. You've got to pick a formation, and the players you pick have got to fit that formation, so you need to really think about that as well. So that makes it a bit harder than just picking 11 favourites. And then you have to pick a captain, which my captain was easy. So, well, I'm ready then if you are. If you want to start us off. So we'll obviously go through it in stages. So take it away, Dougie.
Yeah. I'm just going to... So I'll start with the goalkeeper, and then you want to tell us your goalkeeper.
Should we pick his formation first?
Yeah, whatever. So I've gone 4-3-3 as my formation.
So have I.
was going to go for a traditional old Premier League 4-4-2, but with all the new, I don't think I could have fit this into that.
Well, that's how Leicester won the league.
Yeah, I think a lot of players probably wouldn't go in a 4-4-2 maybe now. So
no. But yeah, I've gone a 4-3-3 as well because it's my favourite formation. It's as soon as I pick a football game up like FIFA or PES, first thing I do is change the formation to 4-3-3. So.
I sort of think that's the formation nowadays, isn't it? 4-3-3.
Yeah.
That seems to be.
Yeah, you get variations on it where it's like 4-2-1-3 or whatever, but it's always a 3 midfield, and then it does happen a lot now. I think 4-4-2 will probably come back because I think anything formations just go round and round and round. So, yeah. Right then.
So if we say goalkeeper, and I'll come to you for your goalkeeper, and we'll just do it like that.
Yeah. Or do you want to name? We'll name his manager at the end, I think, as well, because my manager is integral to my formation.
Okay.
And we also forgot to mention we've got 3 honourable mentions as well that you can have. So we're going to pick our 3 at the end. So, right then.
Cool. So. My choice for goalkeeper will be Petr Cech, and the reason I go with Petr Cech because I think he was one of the best. He was one of the best goalkeepers around. Yeah. I think he was very good when without the scrum cap, and then I think he was still good. I think he got better as well with the cap on in later life, and I think at the backstage of his career he was still good. He wasn't like he was previously, but I think the best goalkeepers, and he is also one of the most clean sheets as well, isn't he, in Premier League?
Yeah.
So he did, I think quite an easy one that.
Yeah, he didn't. You said, didn't you? Like he was still good at the end. He didn't decline like some keepers decline. I mean, I think that season on the bench for us when we brought in Thibaut Courtois. Sorry, we can have a bit of a crying in the background there. I think that season was probably bad for him. I think a goalkeeper, the worst thing they can do is have a season where they don't play much. Like I think same happened to Carlo Cudicini. I mean, he was one of the best keepers in the Premier League, and then he had a year on the bench, and he just sort of was a bit wobbly after that. But
Cudicini as well. He was quite a small keeper, and then when he didn't look small keeper, but then when he came back into the squad, back into the first team, he sort of looked how small he actually was because he wasn't.
Yeah, compared to Czech. Yeah.
He wasn't getting to. Things like
yeah. I think as well though, like we talk about like we talked off air about Pepe Reina and how good he was and stuff. Both of those were smaller keepers. Both of those were really good on penalties, and I don't think Czech was the best on penalty. I mean, it was that night in Munich, obviously, but overall penalties, it wasn't. What's that?
Fans, if he can't, always does.
But no, but I think you do find that your taller keepers are not as good on pens, and the smaller keepers, and we'll say are small, if they're stood next to us, they'd be giants to us. They're better on penalties.
Reina was from personal experience, Reina was a very, very good penalty.
Brilliant.
There's so many Champions League matches on penalties.
Yeah, he was really good for you. So my keeper, I've gone, because I can't go Peter Cech, obviously. I've gone Peter Schmeichel. There is a debate about who is the better keeper because you talk about stats, and I think you probably put Edwin van der Sar and David Seaman in these conversations as well. But Peter Schmeichel, I think, is probably the best keeper of all time because he was more than a goalkeeper. He was like a warrior and a leader. And some of the saves he made, I mean, you've got to look at just some of the saves were unbelievable, weren't they? Some of the stuff he used to do. And he actually scored a few goals in his career as well, which is a bit unusual for a goalkeeper, isn't it? I always find it odd that he left Man United when he did. I mean, I know why he left, because obviously he couldn't do anything else there, but then he came back to the Premier League and played for, City and Villa. I always found it a bit weird how he didn't go back to Man United, because Man United were crying out for a keeper, and had he declined that much at that point? It's a bit...
I think it's one of them, and I think if you think that part in your life is closed, and I think I used to talk about people not wanting to tarnish their careers. If he goes back to Man United and he's not...
Yeah. Well, they always say don't go back as well, don't they? So it is one of those. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's less pressure as well at the time playing for Man City and Aston Villa and stuff. So, but yeah, for me, Peter Schmeichel was
the greatest one about them.
I mean, even as a Chelsea fan, I think I'd probably pick Peter Schmeichel over Cech, just because I think he had that little something extra. Not that Cech didn't, but Schmeichel was... I mean, look what he did down Denmark, won the Euros and stuff like that as well. I mean, I know that's not Premier League, but that was incredible. He pretty much, as a goalkeeper, single-handedly won them that Euros, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's mine anyway.
There's an argument for both, but I think they would probably be in anyone's top 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. You're not taking anything away from the other. You're picking, if you're playing 5-a-side and you've got a choice between Peter Cech. I've lost it. Peter Cech and Peter Schmeichel. You're not going to complain that you get the other one, do you know what I mean? You'd be like, I'll pick whichever one you want. I love the other one. So yeah, anyway, that's mine. Peter Cech. I know really bad. It's because they're both called Peter.
Not again. Not again.
So how do you want to do back 4? Do you want to do a position each, or do you want to do centre backs and then the full backs, or do you want to do just the whole back 4 at once?
You can do just pick your 2 centre backs together.
Okay, yeah, right.
So okay. you go first this time, Bobs.
Okay, so I've gone, and he's my captain. I've gone for Tony Adams. I think he's one of the best defenders of all time, and obviously being the Chelsea fan with John Terry, I feel like Tony Adams and John Terry are probably like kindred spirits in a way, and very similar players, both warriors for the team. And I think, especially in the 97-98 season, Tony Adams was incredible that season. And for me, again, 5-a-side game, you pick between Tony Adams and John Terry, you'd be like, just give me either. You're not going to complain getting the other ones there. So, and my second centre-back, I actually did toy with Rio Ferdinand, but I think Nemanja Vidic was the man at the time, and he's one of the best. If I was picking a 5 of all-time defenders, I think I'd have him above Rio Ferdinand. So, yeah, Nemanja Vidic for me. Sorry about the crying in the background again, if you can hear it.
Do you have Nemanja Vidic if Torres was the forward against you?
Maybe not. No, maybe not bring Ferdinand in. Then again, he used to play well against him, didn't he? But no, I don't think you'd concede many goals with Tony Adams and Vidic at centre-back, do you?
No, very good. I've gone I've gone Tony Adams as captain. Like you said, Bob, 97-98, Tony Adams was still coming off his drinking as well. To say he was also getting drunk halfway through this, a lot of the season before Wenger came in, and slowly but surely coming off it, and to still put in performances as he did. It's incredible, really. Partner Terry.
No.
I think it has to be. I think 2 players that live and breathe their clubs, and it's a very unusual thing these days for players who've come up through the ranks pretty much and stayed there forever. Really, I know Terry went on to play for Aston Villa and all, but yeah, he wasn't. He was pretty much done by the time.
Yeah, he went and he stepped down a league, didn't he, as well? I think he was pretty good for him, but I think he just wanted to have one last season, didn't he, before he retired? Yeah.
Terry, Terry and Adams were never blessed with blistering speed but their awareness of where to be and where
they could read the game
to be, they didn't need to have speed.
Yeah, I think when you look at players like Rio Ferdinand, for example, he had a lot of pace, so he could get himself out of trouble. I mean, he was a good player, Doug. I'm not saying he wasn't a good player; he was a good player, but Adams and Terry they knew where people were going to be and stuff. And obviously, everyone has bad games. They had a couple of bad games now and then, but most of the time there were 10 out of 10s every match, nearly once. So,
yeah.
Right then.
On to two fullbacks. So for me, I think it's very, very easy. This and Ashley Cole left back and Gary Neville at right back. I think it's just very easy. Very English. So a very English back four.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
We probably didn't see this back four. I don't think this back four ever played together. I don't think so because I think when Tony Adams retired by the time Terry.
Terry had Gallas and Desi in front of him and LaBeouf at times, so he wasn't always in the Chelsea startup at the time. So
very English back four, a good old English back.
Good. That we've missed out some help. I mean, one of them's in my honourable mentions. We've missed out some good players there as well. Do you know what I mean? So
it is some very, very good players there.
So I couldn't pick Ashley Cole, so I picked Evra because Evra was quality. I absolutely love Evra now. I think he's hilarious as well on social media, which helps. But he was like every bit as good as Ashley Cole at times. You know, he was a brilliant player. Could get forward, defend brilliantly. I mean, that Man United team that won the Champions League that beat us, that's one of the best teams they've ever had. And he was, even Vidic, for example, were like the heart of that defence in many ways. Right back, I was toying with Gary Neville, but I've actually gone Zabaleta because I kind of wanted to give a bit of credit to Zabaleta because I had a feeling you might pick Gary Neville as well. But Zabaleta, I think he's a bit of an underrated player. He was fantastic for City for several seasons, and I know he's still playing now and he's playing for West Ham and not the player he was, but just a good solid player. I mean, he could get forward, he could get back. He was pretty quick as well. So I mean, so I've gone Zabaleta and Evra as my fullbacks.
As I was saying, Evra and Zabaleta very similar sort of players, both quite good defending one-on-one. Evra's because he's quick, but Zabaleta was very good going forward. They're both very good at going back and forth, and that's very, very difficult these days to find two players because nowadays they're more like wing backs now, aren't they? More wing.
Yeah. Like you look at Alonso for us.
I look at Trent.
Forward. Yeah.
I look at Trent for us. Amazing going forward. One of the best assisters in the league. But he still needs to work defensively. And Robertson is good going forward. But again, he's still a bit suspect at the back as well. So it's just a learning curve.
Yeah, I have heard that apparently Liverpool want to move Trent into midfield at some point. So maybe he'll...
Yeah.
Maybe that's where his future lies.
They're looking at Trent to be like a De Bruyne type of player.
Yeah.
He probably could play there, Trent. But
I mean, just talking. I just wanted to bring up. I ain't got any. Have you got any fullbacks in your honourable mentions? Because I don't.
No.
I just wanted to kind of mention, like, I did toy with Dennis Irwin because Dennis Irwin was utter class as well. There's been a lot of like Leighton Baines. I think he's probably a bit under the radar a little bit as well because it feels like he's been playing since forever, doesn't he?
He has. He's been playing quite a lot, hasn't he?
I've got to admit, right back, so I find it hard to think of. I mean, I can think of like Ivanovic, I thought was class for us. Aspilicueta, Paulo Ferreira, all great players. But then I find it hard to think outside of my. I mean, obviously you concentrate more on your own club, and I did find it hard to think of many right backs like Steve Finnan for you was a pretty decent player. You know what I mean when you think back to that. And John Anarisa at left back. I mean, I could have easily picked him.
You could have had Lauren, who played for
Lauren, very good. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
And Ashley Cole at left and right back.
Well, I can't pick Ashley Cole.
In Arsenal's invincible season, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it is difficult. I mean, you've got like Roberto Carlos. Was he right back? Roberto Carlos,
left back.
Was he left back?
We didn't play in Premier League either, so we couldn't pick him. But yeah.
I mean, Carragher used to play right back.
Yeah.
But like I said,
he was a centre back though, wasn't he?
Nobody wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
But we've just named a lot of players there that we've missed out that could have easily fit into this team. And like I say, I mean, I know more me than you because you kind of struggled a bit. I tried to fit a system here.
Yeah.
Just
your own players.
I mean, I'm thinking of someone looking at I know we're not on midfield yet. I'm looking at some players left out on midfield, and I'm like, oh my god, I've left that player off.
Yeah, I think people might, what are you doing? But because it's difficult. But so free midfield, Bob. Can I take? Are you going one defensive midfield and two midfielders? Are you doing three?
I'm just going to go 3 along because really, one of them did sort of play defensive midfield towards the back end of his. In fact, I think both did towards the back end of the career. 2 of them that I've got, but they were box to box midfielders, both of these. So I just need to name them now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So obviously I've got 3, but I'll give you my two that I'm going to have sort of holding. So they'll probably have to swap. So I've got Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira.
Right.
I think in some ways. Can you imagine if a team would have had those 2 in it together? I mean, there'd been a few red cards probably, but I think they would have played absolutely brilliantly together, and I think they know it now when they talk. I think they think, obviously the problem is Vieira never would have gone to Man United and Keane would never have gone to Arsenal.
No,
but just think of a scenario where you could have had them in the same team. Could you imagine coming up against those 2? You wouldn't even get to defence.
It's the thing. Keane, the thing with Keane and Vieira, they were very similar but quite different at the same time. Keane, very tough, and people don't really realise that Keane was also a very good footballer as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
He could do a lot of things. Vieira, on the other hand, Vieira was long, he was lanky, he could strike, he was with the ball. He very, very
couldn't get the ball off him.
Didn't really lose the ball. So they probably would have.
When he passed it to Ryan Giggs that time. He laughs about it now, doesn't he?
He was just hoping Lee Dixon were going to flatten Giggs. But so who's your third, Bob?
Gerrard, obviously. He would probably be my vice captain in this team as well. If I want to name a vice captain, had everything, could get box to box. I mean, he liked to pass it back sometimes. In fact, so we're going to have a discussion on that one day because I want to know if you want your opinions on the Drogba one, but we'll save that. But could score goals. I mean, the guy was so versatile. I mean, people gone about sometimes he played wide right. He played wide right brilliantly. He wasn't crap wide right. He used to put an absolute shift in. Just Steven Gerrard.
I think the good thing about that midfield as well, Bob, is you've given Gerrard that license just to go and do what. And I think back end of his career couldn't do it as much, so that's why he was sort of put back as a defensive midfielder under Brendan Rodgers.
But let's say this team got a bit aging. You could almost put Gerrard in one of the Vieira Keane roles and then bring another player in. So
he could do everything. As a Liverpool fan, he could defend, he could tackle, he could shoot, he could pass, he could run, he could header. He was just a perfect midfielder.
Yeah,
perfect midfielder.
Had it all. And he had a lot of pace as well. I think that kind of gets a little bit overlooked. I mean, there's always the Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes debate that we've had, where I think they were so different you couldn't really rate them. Like Lampard and Paul Scholes didn't have that pace that Gerrard had, so Gerrard kind of had that in his locker. That's probably why he sometimes did play wide right, because he had that pace to play there. So I won a World Cup on FIFA with him playing wide right, so it does work. So anyway, that's my midfield 3. So what's your midfield 3?
Oh, it's awful this because it's so difficult. It is so difficult. Now I've got 3 players that are very different. Now I'm gonna go as you. I've got Vieira in. As I said before, don't we need to go into about Vieira? So he's going to be sort of sitting for me. Now. I've gone with Frank Lampard. Best
goal machine.
Best goal scoring midfielder in the Premier League. You'd be silly not to put him in. I'm pretty sure Bobby would have been in yours.
If I could have picked it from scratch, yeah.
Now, this is where I'm going to confuse people now.
Okay.
They're going to go, what?
I'm worried.
Santi Cazorla. And the reason I say Santi Cazorla is that what he could do with the ball. He was, in my opinion, apart from Ronaldo and Messi, the best 2-footed player I've ever seen.
It was very two-footed, yeah.
And I just think he can bring the ball out. He can literally he can beat 2 or 3 people in an instant and get Lampard to go up front. So I was thinking the likes of Fabregas, but Fabregas for me would be the Arsenal Fabregas, because that's where he was more box to box then. Because at Chelsea he was more, he didn't go back and forth like he did when he was younger.
Yeah, I've said before to you, I think we got a more cultured player that was a bit more. It was smarter, I think, at Chelsea. He'd been around the block, so he knew what passes to make and stuff. And it was it was more like a Barcelona player then when he came to Chelsea, because he played that way.
And I think in Barcelona it was a case of you stay there, you don't move.
Yeah, I mean, he did score a few for us, but yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
As I always said to Henry, I don't want you going off that touchline. You
almost could have had a perfect midfield if you had Chelsea Fabregas and Arsenal Fabregas together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was thinking, but the reason I've gone with Cazorla is I have a lot of love for Cazorla. I just think what he can do with a ball in midfield, he could still pass. He was good at free kicks. So I think, people are going to go. But like I said, you not picking Scholes, and Scholes again was one of them people like, Scholes is brilliant, but I just think he had it all in his field.
But you're thinking of the system here, aren't you, as well, which is what I said to do. Don't just think, I want these 11. If we did 11 players that we thought were best players, we probably would have a few little odd differences.
This is probably why England didn't really work that well, because it was like you put all these great players and gone, right, play together, and people just couldn't manage them. They couldn't manage them.
I think when we finally figured it out, it was too late as well. Like when we found Hargreaves, he all of a sudden kept getting injured. Because Hargreaves and Lampard and Gerrard, it was perfect, because he used to be the water carrier for those two. You know, I feel like if we'd have had a few more tournaments with Hargreaves in that midfield, with those two playing in front.
Too much though, didn't he?
What's that?
He did too much, Hargreaves.
I don't know. I think the Hargreaves that came out of the 2000. What's that? But that was a younger Hargreaves. If you take the Hargreaves that was in the 2006 World Cup, that player after that, I mean, he got injured for Bayern Munich, which was annoying. If you take that Hargreaves and put him in with that Lampard and Gerrard, and then I mean, we finally figured out the left-hand side with Joe Cole as well. Joe Cole kept getting injured. You know what I mean? It was like England just. Yeah. I don't want to blame it on injuries, but I feel like we had no luck in some respects. No. And we always seem to be great in one position and not in a load of others at once. But that's obviously a debate for another time, isn't it? So
yeah, they're my three, and as difficult as it was, very, very difficult. And I could have picked a million players, but I just thought that. I mean, I could even have Gilberto. Gilberto was brilliant. I could have had Scott, all sorts of players, but I thought them three would work really well together.
Surprised you didn't take a look at Michael Essien.
Again, in terms of literally, you could
Balak as well for us. You could have Makalele.
You could have had a box full of midfielders, couldn't you?
Yeah, you probably could just have a team of midfielders.
Yeah, that's my three.
Okay, so we've got front three now. So do you want to do the two wide players and then do the forward separately? So we'll both give us two wide, yeah? So you might as well go first then.
Again, it's another one that people go, what? So I've gone Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne was on the right wing.
Okay.
Because he's just his passing ability is incredible.
Well, you talk about midfielders again.
He got in that free. He could have easily.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of those players. I think if he carries on, he's going to break that assist record, the all-time one, the way he's going. Obviously, he has his problems of injuries, though, doesn't he? And I think there's been rumours of him maybe leaving after next season or the season after. So,
and I think he'd work well with Gary Neville, because Gary Neville was a good. Some way he could say to De Bruyne, "You just stay forward, mate, and I will."
Yeah. Gary
Neville did for Ronaldo at the back end of his career. If you're supplying everything, you're doing what you should be. I don't mind doing that little bit of running for you.
Yeah.
I think that would work. And then on the other side, again, I'm going to go Robert Pires, because I think him and Ashley Cole combine so well.
No, that's true. Yeah.
That would work so well. And I just think he was brilliant. I think he was absolutely brilliant. And again, he was another player that he just made things happen. He was quick.
He didn't mind a little bit of cheating either.
Well, he said it,
you need players like that. You need players like... Look at us with we love Dennis Wise. Dennis Wise was a hated player, but we loved him. So
yeah, I think, like you say, you look on your formation, your squad. I think, like I said, Ashley Cole and Pires played for us for so many years. It was Arsenal's best. Arsenal's left-hand side used to destroy teams.
Yeah.
And go with who you're strong with, and that's a really good
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Do you want my wingers now?
Go on.
So this one's going to be a little bit of a cheat, but he did play there in his career. I'm going for Henry on the left wing.
Henry on left?
Because he played there for Barcelona, and he did play there for Arsenal a few times as well. I think when he came, he was a winger, wasn't he?
He used to, yeah, he was a winger. Wenger said, "I want to make you a striker." But boss, I can't score goals.
I mean, I think people forget he won a European Cup playing there for Barcelona, so he can't have been too bad at it. At the wing, I mean.
He won a World Cup playing on the left wing.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So that's what I mean. He can play that. So although I felt like I was kind of cheating a little bit, he could play there. So and right wing.
Sorry, like drifting out left a lot.
But my point is, he could cut inside and score. So that's what I was thinking.
Next one.
Right wing, unsurprisingly, Ronaldo. Best player I've ever seen in my entire life. I've seen him live. Unbelievable player. I think people forget how good he was in those last 2 seasons at Man United. The Ronaldo that left Man United was the Ronaldo that went to Real Madrid and went on. I think in the Champions League winning season, he scored 46 goals or something like that. I haven't looked up the stats, so it might be not completely accurate. Unbelievable player. I mean, can you imagine how scared defences would be having Henry on the left and Ronaldo on the right? I mean, just forget it. I mean, I will admit this team, the fullbacks would have to do a lot of the work. But then again, I've got Everett and Zabaleta, who are two very hard-working fullbacks who would do that work. And again, I've got Keenan Vieira, who can tackle and come through and stuff. So
the people.
So that's my wingers. So shall I do my centre forward, or do you want to do yours? Or?
Yeah.
Well, unsurprisingly, Alan Shearer. Again, I could have maybe picked Henry there, but for me, Alan Shearer is the greatest Premier League striker of all time. The goals prove it. He didn't just score tap-ins; he scored belters. I mean, that goal against Everton, that you've seen it, haven't you? It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable player, good in the air. And the big thing for me about Shearer that I think puts him ahead of everyone else as well is his knees went and he still scored 20-odd goals a season because he knew how to adapt his game. We'll look at guys like Torres, who we talked about recently. When his injuries caught up with him, he wasn't the same player. You know, a great player before he was injured, but not afterwards. Shearer was. And for me, it's got to be Alan Shearer. I mean, what is it, 260 Premier League goals or something like that, or is it more? But even I think Rooney's second and he's still miles behind him. He's not anywhere near him. And I did think Kane might have a chance to catch him up, but I think Kane's injuries have caught up with him. And again, you compare Kane and Shearer now and you think about injuries. Again, look what Shearer did after his injuries. So, Shearer. And, I'll name a striker that I could have picked afterwards, but I'll wait till you've picked yours anyway. So, I know what yours is going to be like.
Bit like you. I've seen this player live. I grew up a lot of me grew up watching it. It's the best foreign player to ever come into the Premier League. For me, the best striker the Premier League's ever seen, and Thierry Henry has to be, in my opinion, he's the best foreign player to ever come over to the country. I think what he can do with a football, pretty much top goal scorer nearly every single season in the Premier League. I feel for him a bit because I still think he should have won more trophies with Arsenal. I think they should have at least been better in the Champions League. I think
he did. At least he got one when he went to Barcelona, though. So he managed to, get that trophy in his cabinet. So
I think if we could swap the Barcelona Champions League medal for an Arsenal Champions medal, I think
probably. But you can't. I don't think as a footballer you can think like that. You've just got to think about what you did win. Look at Alan Shearer won one Premier League. That's it. He deserved to win everything. You know what I mean? He won one Premier League. Gary Lineker. Look at Gary. I mean, Gary Lineker didn't. I don't think Gary Lineker actually played in the Premier League, did he? I think he left before. But he never won the league title, and he was one of the best of all. Gianfranco Zola never won a league title. Do you know? You think about these. We've talked about doing this, haven't we? Like an 11 of players who haven't won the league as well, which we'll have to do. That's going to be an incredible episode when we get to that.
But yeah, I just think there's nothing that Thierry hasn't won. I think he's actually won everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what happened. I mean, when people say everything, they mean the big trophies. We're not talking about Super Cups and World Cup Championships, although he probably did win those at Barcelona. Yeah, I don't know if he did.
If every trophy he's probably ever gone for, he's probably won.
But I wouldn't, for example, when you say everything, I wouldn't think of the Community Shield in that. Do you know what I mean? Even though he has won Community. Do you get what I'm saying?
He's won everything, as in he's won the World Cup. He's won the
Euro.
Yeah. He's won the Premier League. He's won the Champions League.
Yeah.
There's not many people that have won absolutely everything.
No, there isn't.
So
maybe Pedro.
So
I think he's got more trophies than any Premier League club.
He's got more trophies than food in his house, hasn't he? But yeah, I think it has to be. I said if I could have picked other players. I mean, I've always for my own team, I probably would have maybe put like Suarez. But for me, always.
Do you wish Henry had played for Liverpool?
Yes.
Yes. I think that's the ultimate compliment you can give a player. Like, I look at these 11 players here, and I wished at some point all of them could have played for Chelsea. Even Zabaleta, I think Zabaleta would have been great for us. And I feel like when a player does that to you, that's when you know, like, that because you can hate a team but still like a player from that team. And I feel like that's a big compliment to give a player. One of the ones on a bit. Yeah.
Ronaldo. You've gone Ronaldo. Now, I was very, 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 very thinking about Cristiano Ronaldo. The reason I didn't put him in is because he was good. He was very good for 2 seasons.
I'd say it was more than very good. He got World Player of the Year one of those seasons. I know what you're saying.
At the time, he was a very, very good footballer. He wasn't what he is now. He wasn't world class then. He's unbelievably good now.
Yeah, this is actually funny because I was going to mention this about Henry. Henry became world class playing in England. I think Ronaldo did too, but then he didn't stay. Where Henry stayed a bit longer. Ronaldo went to Real Madrid, like you say, season after season after season. I mean, I'll be honest. Ronaldo had to go to Spain because the whole Ronaldo Messi thing, which is a debate I'm sure we're all tired of hearing, that they needed each other. And I feel like now that they haven't got each other, they're both getting on as well, but they both seem to have, like, I'm not saying this, if you look at Messi's stats, he's still scoring that many goals, but it's like they needed to push each other and it's not there anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a little bit with Henry, like Henry had a bit of a nemesis in Van Nistelrooy for a few years, and I feel like that you need someone to push you. Like, we talk about Salah, Kane and Salah, that, I mean, it hasn't really been going on that long, but they were pushing each other for a little bit, and I feel like sometimes as a striker, you need that because you want to score more goals, and it's in your head to score more goals. And I mean, Alan Shearer just blitzed everyone, so.
For Shearer was never the quickest.
He did have pace though.
He'll say it was never the quickest, but as you said, he just knew what to do, and that's why I feel
like he was the most powerful centre forward I've ever seen. Like, we talk about if you ran into him, you'd bounce off him. Does that make sense? Like,
he was a big guy,
and I feel like he probably didn't have, like you say, wasn't blessed with pace, but I think he was quick off the mark. Like, he had that acceleration. And like I say, so you look at the goals he scored, like people, because Gary Lineker, and I'm not taking anything away from him, he did score a lot of those kind of like tapping goals and stuff. And Shearer just used to score all kinds of goals, like anything you could imagine. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's very difficult. It is very difficult, but yeah, I don't. They could, as you said, you already knew.
Yeah.
Henry for me is my all-time favourite player, and I don't think there's been anyone that's come close. I'm a Liverpool fan, but I don't even think favourite Liverpool players have even come close to how good he was. So that
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think you can have a player like for me, like I say, it's Ronaldo. I love it, but for me, if I'm picking my favourite players ever, I'm still going to pick my Chelsea guys. But Ronaldo gets into that, is the only player outside of my team that gets into that list. And I think that's a huge compliment to pay a player. Like, Ronaldo, for me, I think that Real Madrid Ronaldo is probably the one I like more because he won't score against us and stuff and playing against us. But, just watching him.
See Ronaldo and Messi back when, say, your likes of Shearer was at his best, Henry was in his prime, and see what would have happened then, because they'd have had more, because them two are they're out on their own.
I feel like that kind of player almost didn't exist then. No, that's why guys like Maradona, who were a diamond in the rough in a sense, like they were these unbelievable players at a time when you didn't get many of those players. Whereas now, we talk about like Eden Hazard, for example, who look what he can do now. You think about if there weren't players like that back then, were there? Does that make sense?
No, I mean, this is going to sound really funny, but going back a long time ago, I didn't really know a lot about people who were quite skillful. Now, the most skillful player I ever saw back in '97 was Kanu. Now, Kanu,
yeah,
you never saw anything like that until he came along.
Yeah. Or like JJ Kocher and stuff doing like kick-ups
exactly. The players came and started doing all this skill. You think, wow, I've not seen that.
Yeah.
Because there weren't many Brazilians.
No, and it's like you look at
Juninho wasn't the most skillful.
Yeah, I was about to mention him.
Do you know?
He's a class. I think he got Player of the Year when Middlesbrough got relegated as well. That's something ridiculous. Yeah. But that's why I think as well. Like when I look back at Zola, when Zola came in, there wasn't anyone doing what Zola did. And then when Joe Cole was at West Ham, they were giving him compliments, saying he looks like a Brazilian because of the skills he had.
He was very good.
Yeah, I think he's a bit underrated in some respects, but again, injuries. But I think there's definitely that culture change. Almost like when Ruud Gullit came to Chelsea, it's like that's when things started to sexy football, as they called it, and all that.
If Ruud Gullit would have stayed at Newcastle, Shearer would have left. So I wonder where he'd have gone.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, it were a bit of a disaster, that one. He was never going to beat Alan Shearer there, though, was it? But then you look at like the kind of goals Dennis Bergkamp was scoring, and Dennis Bergkamp, another player we've left off. The kind of goals he was scoring, you didn't see that back then. You were like, "Oh my god, what's this?"
All against Newcastle.
Yeah,
you see that now.
No, but you could see something skillful like that. If that makes sense, doesn't it? And again, obviously, I can't pick him, but what Drogba used to do. I mean, power. He used to score all kinds. I mean, he called like a back heel thing against Arsenal once. That I don't even know we did it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, Bob, can I have your 3 subs?
I do not want to mention our manager first.
If you want.
Because my manager, I would have gone Alex Ferguson, but I went Pep Guardiola because I feel like the team I've got and the system I've got would suit Pep Guardiola more.
Yeah.
That was my kind of 2 cents on that. So, who's your manager?
Wenger,
right?
Yeah,
because it'd suit your system.
Yeah.
I'm sure either one of us would have picked Alex Ferguson. Nobody would have batted an eyelid, but
yeah. Like I said, Mourinho was people could correct me if I'm wrong. Mourinho was the person that really brought 4-3-3 into Premier League.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But then I said when your likes of Vieira left Arsenal and they tried to build the team around littler players, Wenger sort of came for 4-3-3 then. So either way, I could have had.
Yeah, but you see that, don't you? Because when Conte brought in the 3 at the back at Chelsea, the team started playing the 3 at the back, and I think what happens is when a system catches on, like you used to see 4-3-3 where it was like a proper 3, and then you started to get 4-2-1-3 and stuff like that, where you had 2 holding midfielders, which I think was more like a similar. Benitez kind of played that a little bit more than 4-3-3, didn't he?
He did with Mascherano and Alonso.
Yeah. Or you had Haman and Sissoko for a bit as well. You know, very different philosophies to that 3-man midfield and stuff. And
like Alonso.
Yeah, but you talk about what a player! I could have easily picked him. But you talk about the the three what Marino had. Marino kind of merged into that two holding midfielders later on, which I don't know if that was what happened when he went to Spain and he just kind of carried on with it. And it wasn't quite the same.
Got his bus license.
Got his what? His bus license. But it's interesting to talk about format because I heard the 3-5-2 was very popular way back when. And the thing that combated and destroyed the 3-5-2 was the 4-4-2, which I found really interesting. So this is what I was saying.
4-4-2, though, isn't it? It's very
What's
similar.
That, sir?
It's very similar to a 4-4-2.
Yeah, but you've got three defenders and you've got wing backs.
It's like you've got two wing backs, haven't you? Which, if you take one of them out,
I know what you're saying because in a 4-4-2, you don't have wingers, do you? You have wide players, so the fullback's probably still bomb forward. But it's interesting. This is what I was talking about with formations. Coming back round again. It'll always happen. The 4-4-2 will be getting played by everyone again at one point, and I just don't know. You look back at guys like Vieira, Keane. You don't have those kind of players who could play in a two-man midfield anymore. It's like a dying art form. If you think about what we call the Makelele position, that was kind of it was almost like his evolution. Makelele's evolution was to bring in this three-man midfield. Another player you didn't mention on yours, you could have had Kante as well. Look how good he's been and stuff. But
just in it. And
again,
he's not even been here that long.
No, I know. And I don't know, people might disagree with me, but I would put Kante above Makelele because I feel like Kante does a little bit more than Makelele did. Makelele, though, he's got a position named after him. Do you know what I mean? You can't. They call it the Makelele position.
It's very similar Makelele and Kante. I think Kante probably has an engine that nobody else has.
He's almost got the engine of Essien and the defensive skills of a Makelele.
I've never seen. I've not seen anything like.
Yeah. So we've got as managers. So do you want 3 subs? Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
Yes.
Should we do them one at a time? Actually, make it interesting.
So centre back for me would be Rio Ferdinand, just to add a little bit of quickness to the defence.
That's a good call. Actually, I didn't think of that when I was picking mine.
Just if someone need to come out, if we're playing against, I don't know, your front three, I would have Rio playing instead of maybe one of them two, which is difficult. But just to come at the pace, I think.
Yeah, I know. I totally get what you mean. I've gone Carragher. I think Carragher's quite underrated, in all honesty. I think what Carragher did very well, I think, better than a little bit like Carvalho for us, I would say. He was good at that last ditch.
Yeah.
Getting there at the last moment. Unfortunately, he does have a few on goals to his name. But I remember watching Carragher for England once, and you mentioned the right back, and he played right back, and England were crap that day, and Jamie Carragher was brilliant. It was on a Sky Sports one night. I think it was a 0-0. I can't remember who it was against, but Jamie Carragher played right. He said so he has got that versatility. I feel like in right back, he doesn't quite give you the forward options, but you're not going to concede a goal if you've got him at right back from that side anyway, because he's not going to let anyone get past him. So I went Jamie Carragher.
I also think, having seen Carragher, I mean, like I said, I've seen Thierry live, I've seen Carragher live. I've actually probably seen all. I've probably seen all of these live, actually. Probably apart from Gary Neville. But I think
you have seen Gary Neville live when you went to Liverpool, Man United. Yeah, so you have, yeah.
So I've probably seen all of these. I've seen them all live, yeah. So
I just want to say one more thing about. Yeah, go on. I'll say afterwards.
When I watched him at Anfield, when I've been, he never shuts up.
That's another thing. Is good. Yeah.
The full 90 minutes, all I could hear was him going, "Kells, win the header." All I could hear was Carragher, and that's the good thing about him. Someone who can talk, and I think Adams.
Well, Tony Adams, yeah.
All I could hear was Carragher.
Did you watch Ashley Cole on Match of the Day when he talks about the FA Cups? It was on about what Tony Adams would be shouting him to get back. So he goes, if I didn't get back, I knew I was in trouble. So that's why he got used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carragher that's what another thing. He was very vocal. I just think he was one of those players who, like everyone, he had his off days. Everyone does, but he was. I think he's really underrated. I think in Liverpool's Champions League winning season, I don't think he quite gets the credit he deserves for how good he was in that Champions League campaign. I feel like it all goes to Gerrard, and maybe rightly so in some respects. But Carragher was just as important as Gerrard, in my opinion, in that run.
I think I'm going to say this, but people are going to go, But Carragher was the final. Okay, we were 3-0 down.
No, he was.
The ball was perfect.
Yeah.
That got played behind him. The amount of last-ditch challenges, like you said.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Could have been 4 or 5, 6 down before we even started a comeback.
Before we move on to midfield, defenders we could have Carvalho. You can even look at Chelsea Gallas. I wouldn't quite say Arsenal Gallas because he likes to have a bit of a paddy. Kolo Touré, Sol Campbell. I could just go on and name like a million defenders that were absolutely brilliant. Jonathan Woodgate as well for Leeds. I think people don't remember how good he was. Yeah. Some brilliant players have had to miss out. Well, want a warrior in your back four. There you go. So many.
So midfield again. I could have picked loads, but the guy I've gone for just because of the system, David Silva.
And again, a little bit underrated.
City's greatest ever player, in my opinion.
I think so. I think he's definitely in the top 2.
I could have even had him and then Cazorla on the bench. I could have even had that. But I just think what he can do with a football, I mean, even now when he's getting on a bit now, he still controls games when he's playing. He still can't get the ball. He's got
those Spanish players that, that Spanish core that won that World Cup with like Fabregas, him, Juan Mata, all these Spanish...
Xavi,
Xavi, yeah. They don't lose the ball. And they find space where they have no right to find space. I don't know how they do it, but they always do it. Unbelievable players, yeah.
They were just, I don't know. Teresa, they're not. They're very small, so you think you'd be able to knock them off the ball.
No.
Huh?
No.
Like Bernardo Silva, Man City, you can't knock him off the ball.
No.
He doesn't lose the ball.
It's that low centre of gravity, isn't it, where they just can keep... See, I would personally... I think the best team I've ever seen is that Barcelona team, the Pep Guardiola. I think the best national team I've ever seen is that Spain team.
Yeah. But they had this all over the pitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Even a Casillas as a goalkeeper as well.
What a play. Do we're talking about great goalkeepers. We haven't even put a sub-goalie on our bench. But...
Screw it again.
I'm not picking one.
But you know what I mean? And talk about height. He wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the biggest by any means. But
no.
He could get up. He could get up and get flying about. He was brilliant.
Yeah. I've gone Paul Scholes, my midfielder. Again, I wanted to kind of put him in the team, and an argument can be made that he should be in my team, but I had to go with the 3 I went for. What's there to say about Paul Scholes? Unbelievable player, scored goals. I think in terms of passing in the Premier League midfield-wise, probably the best ever. That he says a lot to me that all the players that played with him say how great he was, and then you have guys like Xavi who say how much they respect and think Paul Scholes is like the best. He talked Zidane. Zidane talked about how great Paul Scholes was. Zidane, you wouldn't even expect him to know who Paul Scholes is in some respects. Not that, if you get what I mean, because he's like just this English player, but Paul Scholes was that good. Unbelievable player. So yeah, I've gone Paul Scholes. And later in his career, he kind of went deeper and he could actually play in that defensive midfield thing. Tackle wise, he used to get booked a lot. But again, if I had to drop Keno Vieira for an injury or something, or just a rotation, he could play there. If Gerrard can't play, he could play there. He could play any of those positions in midfield. Unbelievable player.
I think the thing with Paul Scholes is that he didn't score enough goals, and I think he could do everything. And he just scored. When he did score goals, they were belters. But I heard him say that he thinks he should have scored more goals.
Yeah.
One thing that,
like you say, he'd say that himself, wouldn't he? said it himself, yeah.
I think that's one thing that just he didn't score enough goals.
There weren't enough trophies though.
So last game. Paul Scholes had players around him where he knew that if I don't even have to look. I'm just going to play a ball and they're going to be there.
That's what I think he had, yeah. You know, when we compare the Gerrard Lampard Scholes thing, that's what he had that they didn't. He could see a pass before he'd even made it. You know, not that those two couldn't pass because those two could pass, you know what I mean? But he had that in his locker, and I think you know, that's going to win you some trophies, like I said.
Yeah. I think with Scholes is, which I think he doesn't have what Gerrard and Lampard have, is where I don't think Scholes could win you a game on his own. As well as I think Gerrard can win you a game on his own. And I think that's something that when we talk about the argument about who's the better out of the three, I always think that Gerrard has that above Lampard and Scholes, where Gerrard can win you a game on his own with literally from getting the ball in midfield and driving and hitting the ball from God knows where and scoring. That, in my opinion, I think that's what he has over. But Scholes, I said, he could even got in mind, but whether he could have fit into a three, I'm not quite sure.
So striker, finish off.
Drogba. I love Drogba. I just think, again, if you've got De Bruyne or Pires could put ball, Drogba could hold it up. He could bring plays into play. He was one of the best at it. And I think big game play. He was a big game player. He loved a big game. He loved to score goals. Yeah,
definitely.
And I think,
Drogba. Move around a second. Just give me a bit with me. Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a spider incident with my wife, so I better wrap this up quickly. But Drogba, big game player, single-handedly won us many cup finals, so I can't blame you for picking him. I've gone for Aguero. I almost picked Bale, so picking forwards, but I went with Aguero because what a player. Again, a little bit underrated, I would say.
Yeah,
all in all.
It's just injuries again, isn't it? Injuries again.
Yeah. Definitely. So, for me, Aguero.
Yeah, and again, Aguero could have got into this team quite easily.
Yeah, definitely.
I really think it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to pick a Premier League 11 because there's just been so many. So many.
Yeah, I think Aguero as well. Goals, just unbelievable. I mean, if he hadn't got injuries, he could have possibly challenged Shearer's record.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Shall we wrap up then?
Yeah, so that is mine and Bob's 1 to 11 of all-time Premier League players. And like I said, we could have done another 4 or 5, I think, sheets of all different 11 on. We're hoping to get the rest of the lads who you've seen on the podcasts, their views and their team. So we'll try and get that to you as best we can. So yeah, let's hope I get it right this time. So now you can tweet us at PL Seasons, and then our email address is plseasonstoremember@gmail.com.
Yep.
And lovely stuff. So thank you, Bob. And
thank you.
As I said, we'll try and get you the rest of the lads' views on this, and then we'll bring that to you. And we've got some more podcasts coming your way within the next week or so. So from all of us, thank you. Good night.
Good night.